What about you, Los? You been a little quiet over there.
Nah,
Quiet on the creek.
as Lito would say, it's strict over here.
Segue. Yeah, we have just released the music publicly, and the mixtape is strict over here. We talked about it on here as we was building on it, work in progress, in and out of these sessions, into mixing sessions, into photo shoots, video shoots. Released the For My Foes Volume 4 musical, which is 4 of the songs from the mixtape, just in video mixtape form, a format that I originated in 2012 with my guy Willie Curtis and Zips. They're both a part of the work in progress team and family as well, but Zips carried on that tradition that Willie and I started long ago, the straight to video mixtape. So I debuted some of the music off the project there. Shout out to everybody that clicked through and purchased on even.biz and Bandcamp. Got to the early release part of it, but now that the entire thing is pretty accessible, it's 24 tracks. And I thought, like, with it being work in progress, it might be a good thing to do to share like some context to some of the work, because I'm proud of this body of work for its intricacies, for its attention to detail, for like being able to balance, craftsmanship with other ventures, with family life, with just everything that was going on. Like creatively, I feel like I really was dialed in, and there's a lot of moving parts and Easter eggs and things like that within a project that I feel like conversationally it's an opportunity to share that with, whoever might care. But just for the sake of art, I was told that the visual artist, the painter, the TD Creation, shout out to Tiffany, she shared with me that like the value of art a lot of times is rooted in the narrative that comes with it. Like, arts and galleries, exhibits, and museums, like the story associated with, like the difference in you see a white canvas with just a red dot on it. It's just a blot. And you think, well, why is this $20,000 and I could have done this myself? It's like, well, there's the story, the narrative, etc. And I mean, for example, that was the example she gave me. And I thought about this body of work the same way. And I'm like, well, there's so much like within it that you either know or you don't, or it could go over your head, or absent of the context, they're just words, they're just beats and words. But it's a little bit more than that. So it's like, why not explain it? And starting there with just like a segment almost of decoding the lyrics, of annotating and breaking down what's there. I like to take y'all suggestion moving forward, but I figured I'd start the process with a new song from the new project. So one of the songs we put out as a single was called Lowdown Dirty. And and it's a flip of Rick Ross Ashamed from God Forgives I Don't from like 2012. And it's also very much strongly themed from the television show Shameless that was originally on Showtime, but it's in a sense like I don't think Netflix currently.
Yeah.
And first of all, I shared the music with these guys like first. They were the first people to hear. Did y'all have feedback from the song at large? I guess the break from me just being in Easter speech mode.
Be crazy.
And shout out to Kev. To Zips.
I think, man, I'm trying to think of what era it reminds me of like when you got in that pocket, like when you first come through on the song, it just reminds me of like it reminds me of something older that you put out before. Just the not in the sense of like it sounds old. It gives me that like, he back rapping, or he rapping, or this is like he in his bag right here off the cuff. And so like when I first heard it, I was just like stunned by like some of just the penmanship that you put into it, but also like the production and like the Easter eggs that you said, like also like the Lowdown, Dirty Shame, like it's strict over here, like using Major Payne. That Major Payne was, you know what I'm saying, in he was, you know what I'm saying, Lowdown, Dirty Shame in the movie. Well, you know.
Well, the reference there is from like Notorious B.I.G.'s One More Chance. Major Payne like Damon Wayans, Low Down Dirty, even like his brother Keenan. Damon Wayans, who was the star of Major Payne, has a brother named Keenan Ivory Wayans. They were like co-founders of In Living Color. It was like a sketch comedy show in the early 90s. And that's who Biggie's referencing in those bars. So Damon Wayans wasn't in Low Down Dirty Shame. His brother was. But I called the song Low Down Dirty because of the vocal sample that says Shameless over and over. So the name of that movie that he was in, like co-starring Jada Pinkett, was Low Down Dirty Shame. So I didn't use shame. So the title of the song is Shameless because it doesn't have shame in it. So also associating it with the cover art and otherwise. But yeah, like I said, the roots of it are in the TV show Shameless. And the premise of it is addiction. That was like my. I wanted to talk about addiction in, I guess, a creative way, because I felt like that show did as much as I think it was comedy. Y'all familiar with the show? You watch?
Yeah, I watched. Yeah,
because that was, I think, y'all immediate kind of feedback was from like having watched the show. I know it was a quote, something, but what's y'all feedback of it before I deeper dive into like?
I mean, go ahead. No, I said it's the song. I like the references of all the songs, and listening to the lyrics, I can tell you is, to me, like just describing the TV show or describing the character, the lead character of the show, and rapping from like his point of view, almost how I took it. But one, like I said, lyric that stood out to me that I said from the jump is, you fighting all these demons, but they moving like fluid. And like I visualized that, and then I, internalized that, and talk about the thing about my damn demons that I'm fighting. Like this shit is, I think that was a bar that stood out to me, and is probably one of my favorite bars you've had in a very long time. So I liked it.
Right. And then to skip around, that's in the second verse. Fighting all these demons, but they moving like Floyd. Who am I kidding? I'm gonna lose by decision. And that's to say, like, Floyd Mayweather's undefeated. The majority of his fights, he wins by decision, by being evasive, by not being able to be hit. So it's to say, I guess the dual meaning is I'm going to lose by virtue of poor decision making. I'm going to lose to the demons I'm fighting because I don't make the best decisions, or I'm exhausted from, trying to catch up with them to, like, they move quicker than I can get to them. So,
I took that line a little differently. Like, from way do you explain it? Just because I think about from the perspective of, like, Floyd was able to win by decision, but I know a lot of times, like, at least for me, competitively, I was always taught not to leave it to the ref or let it go to the decision to try to do. So, like, when you were talking like that, I was like, yeah, you are gonna lose. But, like, compounding it with the subject matter of addiction, and then kind of putting that in the aspect of in the boxing ring, and then somebody judging like you're gonna lose by this, like that's kind of the default how it's set up. So like that was the one line that really stuck out to me, and I don't have the lyrics in front of me, is the line where when you said Frank's name leading up to it, the way that you were talking about Frank, and then what you were talking about before. I feel like it was a double entendre in there. Leading up, then when you said Frank, but one thing about that song that it reminded me of was like the art of storytelling, because like when you think about, like, I always kind of set things back to Outkast and how their albums were, but like when you think about the art of storytelling, like I felt like I was sitting there when Andre was talking to the girl, or like going through his life and then coming back and like listening to your song Low Down Dirty, like I felt like I was in Chicago. Like I could see scenes from the TV show, but then also my experiences being in Chicago too. I could hear like trains going by or like walking down in the city or something, because like how you talking about it, and it was very vivid. But like I hate that I can't remember that lyric. So, but
I know what
you know what
I
I'm talking
know
about.
what you're referring to. It was toward the end of the second verse. I said,
That's it
yeah,
right there.
I wear a smile on my face, but it's still major pain, which was again an allusion to the cover art and major pain character. I'm like Sinatra mixed with Ocean. I wish I could sing. I'm just being frank, but what's in a name?
That was
Cheers to never changing. That's right. I'm shameless.
Yeah, so that was a double entendre, because like when you was talking about, because I mean we've talked about this before in the studio, like you singing on songs and like how now that you're further in your career, you're more comfortable doing it than you were when the beginning of your career, and like so hearing you talk about Frank Ocean, or you know, having Ocean and coming back to Frank, that was like
That's all.
like
I'm just now picking that up. That's
yeah,
all.
yeah.
Well, okay, for
But hold on,
context, go ahead,
I'm
go ahead.
sorry, but can you go back to that, Willie? Because the one thing that I did like was the part before that when you was talking about with the bracelet from the ER, like
like
Van
Van
Fleet,
Cleef, yeah.
Van Cleef, yeah, like
That was a bar.
Well, the Frank line, the main character from Shameless, Frank Gallagher. So,
Triple entendre then.
so
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying, bro.
Yeah.
so when I say I'm just being frank, the premise of the song, the first verse, I think you described it perfectly. The first verse is written about Frank Gallagher. And you know, the setting, the scene in Southside Chicago and his family. Like the second verse is from the perspective of Frank Gallagher. So first verse I'm narrating and telling a story about someone. The second verse is a first person account from his vantage point. Like, and so I'm like Sinatra mixed with Ocean. There's some layers there. I'm referring to Frank Sinatra, I'm referring to Frank Ocean, but I'm also referring to Sinatra, the whiskey. And there's Jefferson's Ocean is another kind of whiskey that's like aged. It goes around the world. It's actually like a preferred, you know, if there is one for myself.
Somebody finna take all this and put it on Genius.
There's Sinatra, you know, there's the Sinatra Jack Daniels, which is kind of a premium thing, and then there's Jefferson Ocean. So I was referring to two different types of like bourbon and whiskey. I was referring to the singers when I say I wish I could sing, but that's to say he gets really drunk and performative, and I'm gonna dial it back, and I try to speed up the pace of it, but to those quotables, like that's what I was saying about the nuance. So I'm just being frank. And meaning I'm being direct, like I'm
Right. That's
the
what's
triple.
in a name?
it's more than a triple.
What's in a name?
Quintuple.
All those names, and then cheers to never change, and that's right. I'm shameless. Okay, so to the beginning, it's about addiction. It's about Frank Gallagher, who is one of the most despicable, unapologetic, brazen, you know, characters ever televised. Like, I mean, it's fiction, it's entertaining. I think the show could be classified as comedy on certain levels, but he's a piece of shit. He's a tough piece of work. But addiction, and all the behaviors and effects of it is what I wanted to speak about. But the first verse reads the story of, like I said, it's a narrator's voice, the story of an addict, anything but pragmatic. So I'm talking about Frank being like idealistic, selfish, you know, etc. This is where we are. You might say he's a junkie, but somebody calls him daddy. And that's general enough that, like, even from the world I come from, it's a lot of people that dealt with addiction, or, you know, are addicts or whatever phrasing. They're somebody else to somebody else. You know what I'm saying? Like, even people you can look down on them in their lowest form, they're held in a different regard to somebody's family, somebody's dad. So depraved but still functioning, a creature of habit, a leech, a savage, betraying any trust he can establish. That's to say, you know, he's an addict. Like, all the particulars of addict behavior, and a functioning addict. I mean, he can do shit, but it's a creature of habit, as most addicts are, but I double down on a creature, calling them a leech or a savage, because obviously like leeches are dependent on what they can take from others, and betraying any trust he can establish. Imagine a single father of 5. He has 5 biological children on the show. 3 most important things: drink, party, get high. That's going from 5 to 3. Just associate single, 5, 3. Those are all odd numbers. Yeah,
5,
so
3, 1.
this is an odd story and whatever. But drink, party, get high. In the southern part of the Shy, where it's hard to survive, because at a point I want to make sure people didn't think that I was talking about myself. I imagine some people do, because it's just the specifics. But in the southern part of the Shy, where it's hard to survive, the show is set in Southside Chicago. So many 14s and carbon 15s. Again, back to just playing around with numbers. Those are both guns. Those are both like large guns. I think long barrel guns, you might even call them. But that's to speak about the dangers of, certain areas, namely Southside Chicago. It's kind of always had that stigma. Also, the alibi, that's where this narcissist thrives. The alibi is the fictional bar on the show. It's like the neighborhood bar. It's their version of Cheers, I guess.
I forgot that was the name of it.
Yeah, the name of the bar is the alibi. Hard. So, that's where this narcissist thrives. Again, talking about Frank, is known to bargain and bribe because he's marginalized. And this is still back to social commentary, like of how people's environments build out their personality types and quirks, and addict behavior is doing whatever it is, like get over, beg, please, these are just real things that just come with addiction and addict behavior. So the bar is a central part of the show. It's called the alibi. Like, speaking on him being marginalized, poor and otherwise. No telling the trauma the kids harbor inside the 5 children that he's a single dad to, pretty much. Plus, they all get it from their mama, cold hard, no pride. Their mom is a not quite main character, but she deals with a lot of psychotic episodes, she's bipolar and otherwise, and shares some of the same traits as Frank in terms of the extremes that she goes to get what she's after, and it could be very cold. She also abandons them, and they don't have, the children don't have anything but stability. And cold hard, no pride. Tell a lie, might even cry just to get what they need. Whole litter of mixed breeds, just grifters and thieves. He actually has a black son, which is kind of odd considering the storyboard. That's a comedic thing. But whole litter of mixed breeds, grifters and thieves. That's to say these children grew up like seeing their parents doing the craziest shit in the world. Like inevitably they gonna be rough around the edges. Thus is the reality of like the hood and etc. Bad apples right by the tree. Yeah, if you know, then you know. Like the saying goes, apple doesn't fall far from the tree in terms of heredity and nature versus nurture. Bless you. If you know, then you know. Manic and bipolar, I seen those episodes. That was a dual meaning. Their mom was bipolar, and one of the children was as well, and they had episodes
about that.
They had plenty of manic episodes. Also play on words, episodes, because I'm talking about a television show that had a lot of episodes. So I was also saying in my experience, I've seen those episodes, like not televised, but just from being close enough to someone going through some of those same things and conditions. So yeah, like I said, as the narrator, this is me talking about a show that I was a big fan of, and like distinct detail. I understand if you never seen the show, it's just raps. And I had a couple friends of mine tell me that they really felt it or understood it the way, as descriptive as it was about addiction and the quirks of it and mental health. And otherwise, I'm like, you never seen the show though, like, so you don't know what the hell I'm talking about.
Yeah. That's crazy.
How long does it take you to come up with a song like that or a concept like that?
Concept right away, because I always liked the Rick Ross song a lot, and then I liked the show and the way my brain works. when I hear the song, I think this should have been the theme song to that show because that's just how my brain works. So the concept was just innate. It's just something where it come with the way that I think of, hear, or view things. The writing of it, I wrote it in two different settings, and that was to like kind of for the sake of point of view. So I wrote the two verses separately, but each time maybe less than an hour to write each part, and I just recorded them as I wrote them.
That's impressive.
But yeah, I'm not gonna go verbatim on the second verse because y'all asked specific things. But it's the perspective it being from Frank's voice is he's just unapologetic. Like he just do wild shit and he don't care about it. He just claims it. Like it's to the line that y'all mentioned. I want to be there for my kids, but I'm too fucking dizzy.
Yeah.
Excuse me, I'm busy. Right now, I'm on my way to go confuse my physician to abuse these prescriptions. Cause he was a scammer. He was a, whatever it take. Like he always out of it or on his way to get, you know what I'm saying, to go way out his way to be.
Some
he got a scheme. I'm finna go
yeah.
confuse. I thought that was a good use of internal rhymes and shit, multiple syllable rhymes. I probably taken every pill except for Plan B, where the name bracelet from the ER like it's Van Cleef, cause Plan B, ER is just, using letters, and Van Cleef being a brand name, some designer shit people wear with pride. I feel like nobody unintentionally wears Van Cleef bracelet, and that's to say to a dope fiend, to an addict, they know they pushing themselves past the limits, and like detox and rehab and all that shit is just part of the process at a point. You know what I'm saying? Drying out, ODing, like shit, Narcan is common. They tell just people to just have it on deck in case you're around somebody. Like, but the idea of like, I got this hospital bracelet on like it's a piece of jewelry, like it's a Rolex watch, or like it's a, that's how warped or how thought off is that mindset. But that's what the character represented to me. From the beginning, it's like, yeah, I'm fucking up. I don't give a damn, almost making fun of it. I think I saw the light. I don't sleep it out at night. I've been drinking all my life. But yeah, from to very closing line, cheers and never changing. That's right, I'm shameless. Like,
Shameless.
yeah, so that was my deeper dive on that track. I appreciate the space, but I wanted the correlations to be understood. In case you never heard of the show, it's very, very, very distinct. And just as a writer, to your question, bro, this is more of an exercise. It's like, I always like the song, but I'm like, what, I'm gonna rap just like Rick Ross on here?
Right.
I mean, I don't know if that work. It don't make sense to me.
Yeah, for real.